a Wikividi Documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Golden State Killer. The Golden State Killer is a serial killer, rapist, and burglar who committed at least 12 murders, more than 50 rapes, and over 100 burglaries in California from 1974 to 1986. He is believed to be responsible for 3 crime sprees throughout California, each of which spawned a different nickname in the press before it became evident that they were committed by the same person. In the Sacramento area he was known as the East Area Rapist, and was linked by modus operandi to additional attacks in Contra Costa County, Stockton, and Modesto. He was later known for his Southern California crimes as the original Night Stalker. He is suspected to have begun as a burglar before moving to the Sacramento area, based on a similar MO and circumstantial evidence. However, as of June 2018 no direct link had been revealed. During the investigation, several suspects have been cleared through DNA evidence, alibi, or other investigative methods. In 2001, DNA testing indicated that the East Area Rapist and the original Night Stalker were the same person, and he was known as the EAR/ONS. The FBI and local law enforcement agencies held a news conference on June 15, 2016, to announce a renewed nationwide effort, offering a reward for his capture. To heighten awareness that the then uncaught killer operated throughout California, crime writer Michelle McNamara called him the Golden State Killer. Authorities charged 72-year-old former police officer Joseph James DeAngelo with 8 counts of first-degree murder, based on DNA evidence, on April 24, 2018. This was the first announcement connecting the Visalia ransacker crimes to the Golden State Killer. Due to California's statute of limitations on pre-2017 rape cases, DeAngelo cannot be charged with late 1970s rapes. Crimes. DNA evidence links the Golden State Killer to 8 murders in Goleta, Ventura, Dana Point, and Irvine. 2 other murders in Goleta, lacking DNA evidence, are linked by Mo. Investigators suspect the same killer in 3 other murders, 2 in Rancho Cordova and 1 in Visalia. The offender also committed more than 50 known rapes in the California counties of Sacramento, Contra Costa, Stanislaus, San Joaquin, Alameda, Santa Clara and Yolo, in addition to hundreds of incidents of burglaries, peeping, stalking and prowling. Visalia ransacker, April 1974 – December 1975. It was long suspected that the training ground of the criminal who would become the Golden State Killer was Visalia, California. From April 1974 to December 1975, the Visalia ransacker is believed to have been responsible for 1 murder and around 120 burglaries. Most of the ransacker's activities involved breaking into houses, rifling through the owner's possessions, scattering women's underclothing, stealing coins and low-value or personal items, while often ignoring banknotes and other valuable items in plain sight. In late April 2018, the Visalia chief of police said that the department was confident that the Visalia ransacker has been captured. However, he acknowledged that the prime suspect was never a suspect in their investigations. No DNA evidence exists, and no other unsolved murders or rapes in the area were connected. The statute of limitations has expired for the burglaries, and no link between the September 1975 Claude Snelling murder and DeAngelo has been made. East Area Rapist, June 1976 – July 1979. The East Area Rapist is believed to have moved to the Sacramento area, progressing from burglary to rape in mid-1976. The crimes initially centered on the unincorporated areas of Carmichael, Citrus Heights, and Rancho Cordova, east of Sacramento. His initial modus operandi was to stalk middle-class neighborhoods at night in search of women who were alone in one-story homes, usually near a school, creek, trail or other open space, providing a quick escape. He was seen a number of times, but ran away. On one occasion, he shot and seriously wounded a young pursuer. Most victims had seen a prowler on their property before the attacks, and many had experienced break-ins. Police believed that the offender had a pattern of conducting extensive reconnaissance on several homes in a targeted neighborhood before selecting one for attack. As part of his surveillance, he was known to look in the windows of future victims and prowl in the yards of homes for several nights before attacking. On a few occasions, It is believed that in the run-up to attacks the offender entered the homes of future victims to conduct reconnaissance, unlock windows, unload guns and plant ligatures for later use. He frequently called them before the attack, sometimes for months in advance, to learn their daily routines. He would sometimes hang up, pretend to have the wrong number, or threaten to harm the victims again. Although he originally targeted women alone in their homes or with children, the offender began attacking couples. His MO was to break in through a window or sliding glass door and awaken the sleeping occupants with a flashlight, threatening them with a handgun. Victims were then bound with ligatures which he found or brought with him, blindfolded and gagged with towels which he had ripped into strips. The female victim was usually forced to tie up her male companion before she was bound. The bindings were often so tight that the victim's hands were numb for hours after being untied. He then separated the couple, often stacking dishes on the man's back and threatening to kill everyone in the house if he heard them rattle. He moved the woman to the living room, and often raped her repeatedly, sometimes for several hours. The offender sometimes spent hours in the home ransacking closets and drawers, eating food in the kitchen, drinking beer, raping the female again or making additional threats. Victims sometimes thought he had left the house before he jumped from the darkness. The offender typically stole items, often personal objects, and items of little value, but occasionally cash and firearms. He then crept away, leaving victims uncertain if he had left. The offender was believed to escape on foot through a series of yards and then use a bicycle to go home or to a car, making extensive use of parks, schoolyards, creek beds and other open spaces which kept him off the street. The rapist operated in Sacramento County from the first attacks in June 1976 until May 1977. After a 3-month gap, he struck in nearby San Joaquin County in September before returning to Sacramento for all but one of the next 10 attacks. The rapist attacked 5 times during the summer of 1978 in Stanislaus and Yolo counties before disappearing again for 3 months. Attacks then moved primarily to Contra Costa County in October and lasted until July 1979, after which the rapist moved to Southern California and became known as the original Night Stalker. Murders. Brian and Katie Majora, a young Sacramento couple, were walking their dog in the Rancho Cordova area the night of February 2, 1978, near where 5 East Area rapist attacks had occurred. The Magyors fled after a confrontation in the street, but were chased down and shot dead. Some investigators suspected that they had been murdered by the East Area rapist because of their proximity to the other attack's location, and a shoelace was found nearby. The FBI announced on June 15, 2016, that it was confident that the East Area rapist murdered the Magyors. Original Night Stalker, October 1979 – May 1986. Shortly after a rape committed on July 5, the East Area rapist moved to Southern California and first struck in Santa Barbara County in October. The attacks lasted until 1981, and took a darker turn. The rapist began to kill his victims. Only the couple in the first attack survived, alerting neighbors and forcing the intruder to flee. The other victims were murdered by gunshot or bludgeoning. Since the East Area rapist was not linked to these crimes for decades, he was known as the Night Stalker in the area before being renamed the original Night Stalker after Richard Ramirez received the former nickname. 1979. On October 1, an intruder broke in and tied up a Goleta couple. Alarmed by hearing him say, "I'll kill him," to himself, the man and woman tried to escape when he left the room and the woman screamed. Realizing that the alarm had been raised, the intruder fled on a bicycle. A neighbor responded to the noise and pursued the perpetrator, who abandoned the bicycle and a knife and fled on foot through local backyards. The attack was later linked to the Offerman Manning murders by shoe prints and twine used to bind the victims. On December 30, 44-year-old Robert Offerman and 35-year-old Deborah Alexandra Manning were found shot dead at Offerman's condominium on Avenida Pequeña in Goleta. Offerman's bindings were untied, indicating that he had lunged at the attacker. Neighbors heard gunshots, but failed to respond, saying that they thought the shots were innocuous. Paw prints of a large dog were found at the scene, leading to speculation that the killer may have brought one with him. The killer also broke into the vacant adjoining residence and stole a bicycle, later found abandoned on a street north of the scene, from a third residence in the complex. 1980. On March 13, 33-year-old Charlene Smith and 43-year-old Lyman Smith were found murdered in their Ventura home. Charlene Smith had been raped. A log from a woodpile on the side of the house was used to bludgeon the victims to death. Their wrists and ankles had been bound with drapery cord. An unusual Chinese knot, a diamond knot, was used on Charlene's wrists. The same knot was noted in the Sacramento East area rapist attacks, at least one confirmed case of which was publicly known. On August 19, 24-year-old Keith Eli Harrington and 27-year-old Patrice Briscoe Harrington were found bludgeoned to death in their home on Cockleshell Drive in Dana Point's Nagel Shores gated community. Patrice Harrington had also been raped. Although there was evidence that the Harringtons' wrists and ankles were bound, no ligatures or murder weapon were found at the scene. The Harringtons had been married for 3 months at the time of their deaths. Patrice was a nurse in Irvine, and Keith was a medical student at UC Irvine. Keith's brother, Bruce, later spent nearly $2 million supporting California Proposition 69 authorizing DNA collection from all California felons and certain other criminals. 1981. On February 6, 28-year-old Manuela Withon was raped and murdered in her Irvine home. Although Withon's body had signs of being tied before she was bludgeoned, no ligatures or murder weapon were found. The victim was married, her husband was hospitalized, and she was alone at the time of the attack. Detectives noted that Withon's television was found in the backyard, possibly the killer's attempt to make the crime appear to be a botched robbery. On July 27, 35-year-old Cherie Domingo and 27-year-old Gregory Sanchez were the original Night Stalker's 10th and 11th murder victims. Both were attacked in Domingo's residence on Toltec Way in Goleta, where she was living temporarily. It was owned by a deceased relative and up for sale. The offender entered the house through a small bathroom window. Sanchez had not been tied, and was shot and wounded in the cheek before he was bludgeoned to death with a garden tool. Some believe that Sanchez may have realized he was dealing with the man responsible for the Offerman Manning murders, and tried to tackle the killer rather than be tied up. Again, no neighbors responded to the gunshot. Sanchez's head was covered with clothes pulled from the closet. Domingo was raped and bludgeoned. Bruises on her wrists and ankles indicated that she had been tied, although the restraints were missing. A piece of shipping twine was found near the bed, and fibers from an unknown source were scattered over her body. Authorities believed that the attacker may have worked as a painter or in a similar job at the Carla Real shopping center. Brought to you by Wikividi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?